For centuries, Rome stood as the most powerful civilization the ancient world had ever seen. Its soldiers never lost a war they couldn't afford to lose. Its roads still exist today. Its laws still shape your country's justice system right now, in this century. So here's the question that should terrify every empire that has ever existed. If Rome, the most powerful civilization the world had ever seen, could collapse from the inside, what makes you think anything lasts forever? No enemy ever conquered Rome in a single battle. There was no final war, no last stand. Rome simply rotted. Slowly, quietly, from within. And by the time anyone noticed, it was already too late to save. This is the story of how the greatest empire on earth destroyed itself. At its height, in the 2nd century AD, Rome controlled over 5 million square kilometers. Its legions were the most disciplined fighting force on Earth. Its trade routes connected 3 continents. Its citizens truly believed, that Rome was eternal. But beneath the marble and gold, cracks were already forming. And by 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire would cease to exist. So what happened? The truth is, Rome wasn't killed by one enemy. It was worn down by many: political, economic, military, and social forces that fed off each other in a slow, decades-long spiral. The first crack was leadership itself. In the 3rd century alone, Rome went through over 20 emperors in roughly 50 years. Most didn't die of old age. They were assassinated, overthrown, or killed in civil wars by their own generals. This era is remembered as the crisis of the 3rd century. Every time a new emperor seized power, loyalty shifted. Armies fought armies. Resources meant for defending the borders were spent fighting internal rivals instead. There was no stable succession system. Whoever controlled the most loyal legion could claim the throne. This constant power struggle meant Rome was always distracted, always bleeding resources on itself, right when it needed unity the most. While emperors fought each other, the economy was quietly collapsing. To pay for endless wars, emperors debased the currency, mixing silver coins with cheaper metals. This triggered massive inflation. A soldier's wage that once bought a house eventually couldn't buy bread. Heavy taxation crushed farmers and merchants. Trade routes, once safe under Roman peace, became dangerous as central control weakened. Cities shrank. Some wealthy Romans abandoned urban life entirely, retreating to fortified rural estates, an early preview of what would become medieval feudalism. An empire cannot function without a functioning economy, and Rome's was hollowing out from the inside. At its peak, Rome's borders stretched thousands of kilometers. The Rhine, the Danube, the deserts of Syria, the highlands of Britain. Defending all of it required enormous manpower, but fewer Romans were willing to serve. The legions increasingly relied on foreign mercenaries, including Germanic tribes, who had far less loyalty to Rome itself. Some of these same tribes would later turn against the empire that once paid them. Meanwhile, pressure kept building on the frontiers. The Huns, sweeping in from Central Asia, pushed Germanic tribes like the Goths westward, right into Roman territory. Desperate, hungry, and displaced, these groups didn't always come as invaders at first. Many came as refugees. But Roman mismanagement of these migrations, corruption, broken promises, mistreatment, turned allies into enemies. In 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. Rome itself, the eternal city, was sacked by the Visigoths. It wasn't the end, but it shattered the illusion of invincibility forever. In 285 AD, Emperor Diocletian made a decision that would define Rome's future. The empire was too big for one person to govern. He split it into western and eastern halves. The eastern half, centered on the wealthy, well-defended city of Constantinople, thrived. It would go on to survive for another 1,000 years as the Byzantine Empire. But the western half, with weaker economies, harder to defend borders, and the brunt of the barbarian migrations, struggled. Increasingly, the West couldn't rely on the East for help. Rome was now fighting its battles largely alone. Rome's identity was also transforming. For centuries, Roman civic religion and loyalty to the state were intertwined. But the rise of Christianity shifted, where people placed their ultimate loyalty, from the empire to their faith. This wasn't a fatal flaw by itself, but combined with everything else, it reflected a deeper truth. The old Roman identity, the one built on civic duty, military glory, and shared purpose, was fading. People were becoming Roman in name, but not in spirit. By the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire was a shadow of itself. Emperors were puppets, controlled by powerful Germanic generals behind the throne. The treasury was empty. The legions were mostly foreign mercenaries with shifting loyalties. In 476 AD, a Germanic chieftain named Odoacer removed the last Western Roman emperor, a teenager named Romulus Augustulus, ironically sharing a name with Rome's legendary founder. No one fought to save him. No one really noticed the empire was gone. It simply stopped. The Eastern Empire carried on. But the West that had ruled for over 500 years was finished. Rome didn't fall because of one barbarian invasion, one bad emperor, or one economic crisis. It fell because political chaos, economic decay, military overreach, and a fractured identity all combined, each weakness feeding the next, until the empire could no longer hold itself together. It's a warning that echoes through history. Even the mightiest civilizations aren't destroyed in a single blow. They erode slowly from within, until one day there's simply nothing left to fall.